welcome everyone to Season 6, Episode 5. This one is called Mitosis. So, we've got one big change, and hence the name. We're splitting into two squads internally, platform and credit. This will enable each team to move much faster and more autonomously and fundamentally maximize our chances of success. So, we're kind of this one big cell, and now we're splitting into two, hence the name. And based on this change, it leads to the second change, where we're going to be holding these calls every fortnight and be focusing on the status of credit and platform. So rather than telling you, here's exactly what we did this week, here's what we plan on, here's what we did last week, here's what we're going to do next week, it's going to be focused on how much progress have we made on these two critical products, and really giving you an idea of what we've done, what we're doing, and what we're about to do next from a product perspective. So that's like the key big bit. I'll still continue to do my overviews as much as possible, but my overviews will be more meta about what the teams are doing, but not about what the teams have done or plan on doing. Hey, woo, we got you on board. Actually, just to quickly rewind, we're splitting into two squads internally, woo, for platform credit, and the second is these calls will be held every fortnight so you can better understand the status of credit and platform. So that's in motion. In terms of the overview for credit, which I'm doing this week, but will be my last week doing, we've got more interest repaid. We've still got some interest owed. And we're starting to see the credit scores change. So this user over here who had a 172 last week is now 857. Someone who had a 48 and now is 850. And these are due to the new credit score rules that we've implemented. So, which leads me on to credit. So we've got these new credit score rules, but we need a new user interface in order to make it easier and more fun to build your credit score. So once we release this, we can then start doing the next round of internal testing, which will be really fun. And the second is that we need to start making sure we have the components needed to start opening up the alpha to like more advisors, investors, community members. And the main blockers are things around risk and technicals such as liquidator bots, but I'm not going to touch too much into that. And in terms of later, we've pushed back our audit until we have more stability on the product specs. Then moving on to platform, we're developing out special SDK that will allow partners to do some really cool stuff. I'm calling it attribution, but we'll share more details with that down the line. Thinking about how we've repurposed some of our work done on the risk side to help other DAOs in the space, and just speaking with more customers. And one cool problem we're thinking about is how can we start identifying bots and Sybil attack curves. So that's stuff on platform, but I'm not going to touch too much more into it because Liam has more context there. In terms of overview, I want to shout out Alex for providing some great feedback on the new structure, and also the whole team around how receptive they've been to a lot of the proposed changes that are going to be starting from today. And challenges is organizing the new team structure. It's fundamentally a new way of working and working with new people. So we haven't had a change like this at ARCx for a while. So really excited for it. And that's everything on me. I'm going to pass it over to Kyle.
Cool, thanks, Kerman. So yeah, so last week was a pretty busy week. We spec'd out everything for the attribution project. We're kicking that off this week. We got into some road bumps with the Merkle trees and Titan, but we have a theoretical solution, which we're all really excited for. We finished everything related to the supply pools, and also we had our first liquidations in credit. So we had people that didn't manage their positions and things went south and then they got liquidated. So we know that all that stuff works, which is awesome. So this week, yeah, we kicked off the attribution project. We're implementing our new solution for the Merkle trees and Titan. Just to give people ideas of scale, we're going from something to take, 25 plus hours to taking 5 minutes. So that's a big difference. And we're going to start working on a liquidator bot. And we're also going to start working on some designs and some new UX for the credits and supply stuff. So yeah, shout out to Kale for his help on brainstorming all these solutions. It's been a pleasure and it's been a great help. Challenges, well, that never goes away. Time zones. Time zones are hard. When you have 3-4 different time zones, it's difficult, but we're managing and we're finding ways around it. So yeah. So that being said, I'll send it over to the man himself, Kale.
GM, thank you, Kyle. So what's going on in the data end of the world? So as Kevin mentioned, the team is kind of focusing in different products. This has kind of been pretty natural for us for the last couple of weeks, but you would have noticed that potentially in my updates that things are very kind of split and atomic, but it's, we'll see how we can express that more elegantly in future community calls. So what we've been up to is from the risk end of things, we've been looking at Polygon a lot, so looking at what are the liquidators? How do they behave? What's the minimum amount they'll liquidate? Things like that. That's really important, setting risk parameters for our vaults and understanding what potential stale debt we would hold on to if there was a under-collateralized position. And we're also looking at borrower behavior. So what amounts are people typically borrowing? Because it helps us design a credit product that people actually want to use. Other things that happened last week was vault parameter setting. So just kind of all leading up to that beta borrow is, what does the vault look like? What parameters are we comfortable with? That kind of stuff. And then from the platform perspective, we were doing a little bit of work on improving the scalability of data infrastructure. And then also at a bit of a higher order, we were doing some strategic planning. So platform's kind of this nascent thing. It's only just starting to really, really materialize and precipitate. I know I'm using big words here, but what I basically mean is that it's only just starting to kick off. So we had to spend a bit of time just going what problem are we actually trying to solve? We've solved all these random problems for customers, but what are we actually trying to solve? So that was a bit of work we did last week. For this week, I know that there's some analytics to be done around lenders. So, what are they how comfortable are they with risk? What are they looking for? Things like that. And there's also some development work done on this liquidation score component. So this is a little bit beyond me. This is very much a Hugh and Stuart thing, but thinking about how do they include that in the credit score so they can measure whether or not people are paying attention in mass liquidation events. Other stuff, as I said, platform strategy, we'll continue some work there, continue work on customer deals, there's some really hot ones that I'm sure Liam will talk about, and then more scaling of data infrastructure. So the shout outs is for Liam and Kerman. I shouted them out in an internal call earlier today that, they're starting basically, they're seeding a new thing that we think is really, really valuable. So it's very difficult, and it is very, very difficult, especially when there's a lot of resistance and pushback sometimes. That it's a big shout out to them for actually hacking through the jungle and setting a path for the rest of us. And then challenges is just that clarity around what we're building and selling a platform. I think that's really important, is that it's really easy to solve problems as they appear and solve customer problems as they appear. But going what do we actually want to solve? What do we want to focus on to start with? So that's probably the biggest challenge. That's it for me. Over to Liam in Sparta.
GM everyone. So last week, as sort of the thematics of the presentation reveal, we are doing a reorg to create more agility in the teams and less context switching. So in terms of the tasks that flowed over, we started to migrate into a dedicated sales process and started to do the team building or forming extended parts of the team. We got a customer moved into a commitment stage. We developed, and I developed our first forecast template on the platform side. So that's going to be a weekly report. I might actually include it in some community calls. I'm not sure yet, but fundamentally, eyes on that $sign. I wanted to shout out Kirsten. So Kirsten is one of our data engineers, and she is doing just awesome work to really try to understand the business side more. And I can just see her leveling up. It's really awesome to see, actually. So just really wanted to shout her out because she's bringing some really interesting perspectives to the table, which is great. This week, there is an airdrop related project that has sort of committed to us in principle. So we just need to figure out the details there. We are also progressing a couple of informal commitments. Well, one key informal commitment from last week into a real plan. And then we are also I'm just doing like initial proposals to help qualify opportunities. Probably going into a bit of detail. There's also a commercial partnership that Kale's touched upon, etc. So really the key challenge of all of this is just like, how can we will ourselves to the first dollar of revenue and, break the seal, so to speak, so we can start to do proper revenue forecasting and targets. That's everything from me. I will pass over to Hugh now.
Sweet, thanks, Liam. So last week in products was mainly focused on product design. So as mentioned, the key unblock for us to get to a more public release of credit will be to have front-end designs that align with our updated credit score design. So a lot of the work this week was to build wireframes, to reinterrogate our user flows, and to write up detailed specs so that we can, very clearly articulate the desired behavior for different elements of the UI. That was a lot of work. There was an additional piece of work around user research where we wanted to understand the price sensitivity of borrowers. And this is directly informing a risk element, which is, how much do we charge for liquidations for interest rate, which is at the moment fixed, but will be floated by market rate, and then also borrower initiation. So we just wanted to get more validation there. And then thirdly, we are spending time finding designers and meeting with different people who can support us. A big thing that happened, I think where we're thinking about with the designer is that we want to spend time to rethink or kind of update our product design language. So there's going to be a piece of work that should happen in the coming probably 2 months, depending on how we get traction, depending on traction, which will be to think about more comprehensive design system that we can get that will be fit for the future of the product. That's still TBD, but just some thinking there. We've found some pretty great designers that would be able to support us in that endeavor should we choose to go down that path. Looking ahead to this week, the product design work continues through just finalizing spec and then kicking off work on the high fidelity designs. So these will be going directly into the product into the next sprint. We have a research spike that looks into the supply side pools. So one of the big opportunities that ARCx has with the credit score is that we can create the DeFi reference credit score, meaning that lenders will view the credit score as trustworthy in assessing creditworthiness. And the best way to assess or understand that is through allowing lenders to lend specifically to users of different credit scores. And so thus you can create what's called a credit spread. The difference between a low credit score and a high credit score and interest rates is an indication of the quality of the creditworthiness or the design of the credit score. So a lot of open questions around that. So we're going to solve that this week. And also working on user documentation, which is a key prerequisite to launching Borrow, particularly given that we will be delaying the audit. So having all of that additional information there is going to be super key to have trust in the system. No challenges, but quick shout out for this week is to Liam for internally sharing some great partner insights. Unfortunately, we can't share that with the community just yet, but there's some really awesome learnings. Then we're getting strong validation on the concepts that are coming out of platform. So yeah, massive shout out there. And that's it from my side.
Cool. As you can see, big week at ARCx. So want to quickly run through the GM leaderboard. Huge shout out to Wu, absolutely smashing it on a 60-day streak right now. Classic is trailing very tightly with 1 day behind at 59. and Joel, who the once long forgotten king, is at 42, but we shall see how the game progresses. Want a community member shout out. Just want to shout out Woo. You know, hyper engaged, and just like asking some really good questions, showing up, being active on the Discord. So we just want to thank you here at ARCx for being Woo. And unless there are any Q&As, happy to call it here. Thanks everyone for tuning in. Really excited for the next community call, which is going to be a lot more substantial, new in format, improved, and really exciting. So thanks all for tuning in, and catch you around. Goodbye.